Welcome to Season 9 of the award-winning Retail Tea Break podcast. My name is Melissa Moore, the Retail Advisor. I'm a retail educator, trainer and retail conference MC. Each week as your host, I'll be joined by industry experts, retailers and brands to dispel the myths, share their knowledge and give you an insight into the retail industry. You can listen back to previous seasons on your favourite podcast platform, and while you're there, do me a favour, hit that follow button so that you get to listen first every week. You can watch us over on YouTube and subscribe to the Retail Tea Break because you've no idea how useful that is to ensure that I can keep bringing you the content that you love. And remember, sharing is caring in the retail industry. Share an episode across any of the platforms with your network. And if you're on social media, tag me, Melissa Moore, and the Retail Tea Break podcast. So, in the meantime, grab that cup of tea, sit back and enjoy Season 9 of the Retail Tea Break podcast. This episode is very kindly sponsored by RevLifter, the smarter way to run promotions that protect your profits. So instead of throwing discounts at everyone and watching margins vanish, RevLifter helps you make promotion budget work harder. Using real customer behaviour, it shows the right offer to the right person at the right time, turning browsers into buyers without destroying margins. RevLifter, smart promotions that deliver profit, not problems. So head over to www.revlifter.com and try intelligent offers free for the next 90 days. Go on, you won't regret it. Today, I'm joined by a marketeer who, in his own words, has been doing this for a very long time. He currently helps e-commerce brands understand how they can use promotions more intelligently to drive growth and to reduce costs and brand damage. And we're going to hear all about that today. Dan Bond, VP of Marketing at RevLifter. Welcome to the Retail Tea Break podcast.
Hello, Melissa. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me here.
I'm delighted to chat and I'm fascinated. We're obviously coming into that crazy time of year. Something I think RevLifter can definitely help with all year, but definitely this time of year as well. So look, before we get into it, in the age-old fashion of the Retail Tea Break podcast, in the time that it takes to boil a kettle, which I am informed is about 2 minutes, tell us a bit more about you, your background in the industry, Dan.
Thank you very much. I have quite an old kettle, so it might be slightly longer. Yeah, so I've been in marketing, as I said, a very long time. So it's about 20 years. I'm what I would describe as a classically trained marketer. So properly trained in all the world of the 4Ps and all that kind of stuff. And I've mainly worked in my career in technology and especially MarTech, all that technology that's designed to help businesses with marketing, in particular retailers in this case. And it's all about, so MarTech all essentially works in the same way. It's all about figuring out what message or what offer or whatever you want to put in front of someone. What is the right channel to put in front of someone? What is the right message and what's the right time to do it that is going to make some sort of change in behavior so they're more likely to do something you want them to do or less likely to do something you don't want them to do. So yeah, it's all about that kind of thing and figuring that out. And so yeah, that brought me to RevLifter and what we're trying to do with promotions basically.
That sounds fascinating. I've never heard that term before as well. So that's really interesting. And of course, now you're perfectly placed to use that incredible kind of knowledge and history you've got. So the biggie, as I said, not just for this time of year, but for all year round, promotions or offers, we know one of the biggest levers that retailers can pull to improve their performance, to drive sales. But few things have an impact, look, certainly to me, than a gorgeous, shiny offer. We do love an old offer. We love a bit of a bargain. How that's delivered, though, I think can be done better. And RevLifter talks about intelligent offers. What makes them different or actually so much more useful than those traditional promotions or blanket discounts that we're so used to seeing?
Yeah, basically promotions have been around for a really long time. I talk about this quite a lot. It's something like, looking into the history, it's something like 150 years since promotions were first invented. They were invented in the late 19th century. And in the initial days, it was to try if you had a new product and you were trying to get more people to try it, or you had a lot of stock you were trying to get rid of. And the early versions were actual little metal tokens that people used to be given. And then you could go in and hand that in for a free Coca-Cola in what was laughably called a chemist. I'm not quite sure they were, or a pharmacy, not quite sure that's what they really were. But you could go in and get your free sample of Coca-Cola. And obviously they hoped that would introduce everyone to Coca-Cola. Over the decades, it changed. We had paper. I always like to go on stage at conferences and say, who remembers like cutting out paper
Yes,
Vouchers,
coupons.
coupons, exactly, and surprisingly few people. Other than you can
Oh,
see the older
really? I'm
people in
getting
the audience.
old.
I remember this, but younger people have got no idea. And then obviously now we get them. You get them on your phone. You get them in email. You get them just on site. They're just little codes that pop up, and they can be automatically applied and all that kind of thing. But all that time, that's the technology behind it. Technology is enabled in the delivery of those codes, but essentially they work the same way. A retailer has something they want people to try, or is trying to clear some stock, or is failing to hit a sales target, and that's when they'll use promotions. And that mechanism hasn't really changed. But new technology that's come along, all this ability to collect data, to collect behavioral data, has basically enabled us to use promotions in a different way. So by understanding what's going on our site, understanding different people, and this is where the intelligent part comes in. So we talk about intelligence in two key places, which is in the targeting, so who sees an offer and what context, and then in the optimization, so at the other end of it, so what's the right offer to show, how can we figure that out, are we learning all the time, testing and learning to make our offers work better. So yeah, gathering all that data, all that behavioral data, people coming to your site, what are they doing, what are they looking at, where have they come from, all that kind of thing. How can we use that to build some segments so we can target those offers at the right people and not show them to people we don't want to show them to, who don't need an offer essentially to do what we want them to do or not do what we don't want them to do. And then how do we optimize those at the other end to make sure that was 10% off the right thing to offer, was 15%, was 20%, was free shipping, was a free gift, whatever it is, what is the right offer that's actually going to get people to do what you want, but give you the best outcome that you want as well.
Do you know, as a shopper listening to that, I'm getting all excited again. It's this shiny thing of that sounds so much more personalized. It sounds like it's special to me, which surely is going to want to make me buy. It's going to want to make me come back. How does it play out for the shopper?
Yeah, exactly as you described. So, what we're trying to do is understand from where they've come from, what they've looked at, from their previous history, from whatever it is, what is the appropriate offer for them. Obviously, it's going to be, as you say, much more relevant. It's all about personalization. It's all about the more we understand about someone and what they're after, what their motivations are, it starts to touch on some things like psychology, like behavioral psychology, as well as promotions, as well as the technology part. There's lots and lots of different things at play. There's lots of reasons why someone wants to buy something. It might be to solve a particular problem they have, but it might also just be a desire for that product. It might be branding. It might be they've seen the product and they really want it for whatever reason. So trying to understand as much about that as possible and how keen they are to buy something, what their intent, as we call it, is. When you line that up and use pricing as the other motivator, those are the two big levers that are available to retailers, the motivators. They want to buy it, and then there's a price. I used this example the other day. I was on stage and I talked about how if you had loads of people, loads of men in the audience would want a Ferrari, but they can't afford one. You've got the intent there, you've got the motivation, but if the price is wrong. But if you got the price to the right level, they'd be able to afford one. That obviously then the price starts to affect the intent, because would you want a Ferrari if everybody had a Ferrari? The kind of appeal is not everyone has one. But those are those two big levers you're looking to pull. And so if you can understand what a customer wants, and then you can understand what the right price is, the right offer, the right deal is to get them to buy it. And then that's for personalized. And obviously, that's a much better experience for the customer. They get what they want at the right price, and they feel like they've got a good deal on what they wanted.
It sounds like something that is so helpful for the shopper, of course, for the retailer, for the brand, but I'm loving the fact that the shopper's getting the best out of this. It's getting them a little bit closer to buying that Ferrari. But on that, then, I'm very mindful. We're talking about prices here. How are we protecting margins, avoiding discount fatigue? Where does this all come into balance and come into play?
Yeah, so that's where that targeting comes in. The classic example we always use, as I say, the example is a retailer is coming towards the end of a sales period and they go, we haven't hit our sales target. So, okay, let's stick 20% off on everything. Everything gets a discount on it. You sell lots more. Discounts work. Absolutely, they work and they do drive more sales. But yeah, you're damaging two things. In the short term, you're damaging those margins. So people aren't paying as much as they could have done for the product. So obviously, you're losing money that way. But then also you're damaging brand. And that's often a bigger consideration for marketers, is they're more worried about the longer term damage to brand value. If you're seen as a discounter, if you're seen as someone who sells things for a lower price, that you're selling products immediately when you offer a discount, people are thinking, Clearly, that thing wasn't worth $49.99. It was only worth $39.99 because you're quite happy to just immediately drop that price down to $39.99. So it's all about those two things, like making sure you get the maximum margin when you sell a product in the short term, but in the longer term that you protect the brand by not showing those offers to people who wouldn't need them in order to buy. And that's what we're using that data to do, is to understand when is an offer going to work and make a difference that you want it to, but not use it, not show it to just everybody blindly, so you're not damaging those margins and brands when you don't need to.
That's becoming so much more important. And actually, as you're talking there, I'm thinking of an example I've literally seen in the last few days. I won't mention the brand for obvious reasons, but they've just launched a brand new range for this autumn winter. They've popped a name on it. It's a gorgeous campaign. It's gone to 20% off this morning, like less than a week after launch. And I'm like, was it ever worth that? So that's disappointing for me as a shopper to see that. So this idea of being more specific instead of having these blanket prices or blanket discounts has to be better for everyone. As you said, it's good for the margin, it's good for the shopper, it's much better long term for the brand as well. But I love this idea. We have to be more specific. It's pulling that data, as you said, and being so much more aware of what's going on. The other thing then that's exploded over the last couple of years, Dan, and literally whether it's all the apps on my phone, whether it's those emails coming in, whether it's the signage or the retail media in stores, loyalty schemes everywhere. Everyone's offering something right now, which again is great for the shopper. But I suppose in that respect, what advice have you got when it comes to driving loyalty? So whether you're an independent, whether you're one of these big chains, because they don't all work. And that's from firsthand experience. How do we get them to rock and roll the way they need to?
Yeah, it's interesting. I went to a conference a couple of years ago and everyone was talking about the Sparks card, the M&S loyalty program, and how there was lots of smaller, medium-sized retailers talking about how they'd love to launch something like the Sparks card. It'd be great to have this quite big, complex loyalty program that involves cards, points. I don't know how many people at M&S work on the Sparks card, but there's going to be a lot of people. There's going to be a whole big team dedicated just to running that program. It's big, it's expensive, there's lots of technology behind it, lots going on. And my challenge always when people bring up that kind of example is, let's boil this down to what actually you wanting to achieve. And as far as retail goes, I think really you've only got three things you're looking to do, right? You're trying to get more people to buy, to spend more, and to do it more often. And those are the three things. So
basics. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Get down to those three basics. And with loyalty, really, it's about repeat purchases. Can we get someone who's bought first time to then buy second time, second to third to fourth? And it's that big drop off that most retailers have between first and second purchase. So don't worry so much about some sort of, it's very easy to get caught up in this idea of this big elaborate loyalty thing and this sort of emotional element to it. But really, you just, right, what made someone buy in the first place? That's largely the same reasons they're going to buy for the second time. And the most loyalty programs also work on the basis of, they can be quite elaborate. They can have points and they can have all kinds of other things going on and motivations for triggers for why you get points or why you get closer to being able to get some sort of reward. But largely you get, the end result is you get a discount or you get something which enables you to get a free gift or some sort of reward. So just keep it simple. We want to get someone from the first to the second purchase. What is the thing we need to do? How do we incentivize it to get them to buy for the second time? The reasons are largely the same. So just keep it really simple and think about it that way. And that way you don't get so complicated. I think it's very complicated for consumers as well to think, what do I have to do in order to trigger this reward that I could get? Is I have to come into the store so many times, I have to buy this many things, I have to spend this much. That's all too complicated. Keep it simple. Keep it focused on that. We're just trying to get people second purchase, third purchase, fourth purchase. What's the thing that's going to do that? And that will be a much simpler way to achieve what you're looking to achieve.
Oh my God, I love that you've said this because even I, as a shopper, feel at this stage it is incredibly complicated. If you haven't got the right app downloaded, if the app won't open, it is so unbelievably frustrating. I'm really just telling you my life story now, Dan, but I think as a shopper, it's become so complicated. If I'm loyal to you and your brand, give me some money off, as you said, give me that reward. That's all I want, and I'm going to keep coming back.
Yeah, that's usually the motivator for most loyalty schemes. You're hoping people are signing up because they go, oh, I'll get 10% off, I'll get 20% off when I do whatever. So just keep it really simple and focus on delivering that so that the consumer feels like they're getting value.
Good advice there for all of you listening, because I'm sure many of you do have those loyalty programs. They don't need to be as complicated or as costly for you at all. The big thing, obviously, as you said, you've been in marketing forever, testing, optimizing offers. Again, I'm really mindful we're coming into a really busy time of year now. How do you distinguish between the short-term wins like this time of year versus that long-term value to drive that customer to keep them coming back?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you mentioned a few times it's coming into peak, golden quarter, whatever you want to call it. The great thing about this period, we always say, like when people say, what's the big advantage of peak? The great thing is you get more traffic and conversions in this
Yeah.
period. Typically, most retailers do, and some retailers have a different peak. If you sell ice cream, it's more in the summer. You'll get more traffic and conversions in this period. So this is the best time to learn what works with your customers and then roll that out the rest of the year to say, what can we learn now that we can then keep using? What ideas and things can we keep using as we roll into the rest of the year? So many retailers we speak to, they get to January and it just, the numbers and traffic and conversions fall off a cliff, and they're saying, what can we do about that? Absolutely, this is a great time to learn about that. And I usually say it's best to start with some simple things because that's the easiest place to start if you're not done much testing before. One of my classics is if you've got an email sign up or a welcome discount for that first purchase. Most retailers have stuck it on at 10%, 15%, 20%, whatever it is, never tested it, just left it at that basic level and just kept it rolling. That's a great place to start. Start off testing, like what would happen if you made it 5, 10, 15, 20, if you offered a free gift, if you offered free shipping instead. And look beyond the basic metrics. That's what's really important to do. So the example of 5, 10, and 15%, no prizes for guessing what drives the most conversions. It's the 15%. But the question is then, do people use that discount? How many? What impact does that have on your margins? What's the LTV of those customers? You can look much deeper into those metrics and figure out which actual discount or offer is the one that actually drives the better longer term outcomes for you as a brand as well. Maybe you get slightly fewer sign-ups at a lower discount rate, but actually there's a better result overall over a longer period of time. Or maybe a really whopping offer would accelerate your results by a huge amount and be well worth it in the long run, or maybe just over peak period. Or we do a lot of putting email sign up in as part of exit as well, as part of those exit campaigns, abandonment campaigns. So if we're going to lose these people anyway, let's grab their email address and see if a discount can make a difference. So there's lots of things you can test there, but it's all about looking into those deeper metrics to make sure these things we're trying and these things we're testing, are they driving the longer term outcomes that we want? Are we getting incremental revenue from them? Are we getting LTV? Those are the important things to look at.
Why is it that you think that so many retailers do almost stop at that first hurdle? They pop that 10% on and they seem to just leave it be and it runs and they don't check, they don't look at the data, they just are quite happy and content sticking with that. And it is quite boring at that 10% and they don't challenge themselves.
Yeah, the number one challenge we find when we speak with retailers who we start working with is just having time to look at all these things. Like they've got
Yeah.
so many other things to look at. They've got sending email campaigns, and it's what are their email campaigns? How are we optimizing those? They've got social posts they're doing. They're trying to social sell. There's always something new coming along. What are you doing with AI right now? And so they just say to us, one of the things is we run as a managed service. And one of the things they say is just having us there helping them and turning promotions into something that's strategically part of their trading calendar. So actually they're thinking ahead of like what promotion should we be running? What are we going to test? What are we going to optimize? What's coming up that we can do something about? Suddenly enables them to do that kind of that planning and that testing and that thinking about it strategically, and that enables a lot better way of keeping hold of their performance, understanding their performance, managing their performance, and improving their performance. So it's just a case of there's so much to do.
Yeah.
Look for help where you can get it to optimize these things and make them work better.
And I love that RevLifter offers that helping hand. And on that, then, you work with a lot of retailers, Dan, you and the team do. And I don't ask this next question to be negative, but I think there's probably a lot of retailers listening going, I think this is us. So, with that, then, what are the common mistakes that you're seeing? What are the issues? What are the problems that retailers are making that they're coming to you with? Because I have a feeling this might spark a few conversations. There's probably a lot of people listening going, this is me.
Yeah. Yeah, as I say, the classic one is overuse of promotions. They've got themselves retailers get themselves into a bit of a death spiral of using promotions because they're not getting the performance results they want. And then once you've started, it's a very difficult habit to break. We sometimes describe ourselves as the methadone for brands who've got themselves too hooked on promotions, trying to wean them off. And often it's a case of starting quite gently and saying, look, immediately, we're not just going to stop all your promotions because you'll just immediately see your performance disappear. It's about how can we, to begin with, just introduce the idea of some basic intelligent ideas into your promotions. So one of the classic things we do is say, okay, you're probably offering the same discount to everyone. What if you know where people are in your e-commerce funnel, if they're just browsing or they have things in their basket or they're at checkout? Try offering different things at those different stages. Try offering different things when people try to exit at those different stages because they've got different intent, They've got different, the closer they are to the bottom of the funnel, the more likely they are to buy. So you've already got some things there you can personalize on. You can start to offer different things. And then over time, we usually start pretty gently and softly. And then over time, you can add layers and complexity and different things and different segments and different targeting. But yeah, it's all about introducing whatever you can do to start making things slightly more intelligent. There's things retailers can do. I know it's wrong for me, really, in my position to suggest this, but there are things they can do without RevLifter. You already have the idea of knowing about segments, for example, in your email list, in your CRM. So you can already start to do some of this stuff. We just make it much easier by using automation and data and technology to make it faster and work better. But there's already things you can do to understand more about your audience and understand the different offers that might need to go to those different audiences and then test those things.
It sounds hugely beneficial to take that time, as you said, even if it's with that data that you already have, or coming to someone like you to really help support with those promotional offers. But also listening to you talk here, we've talked about the margin side, the literal money coming through the door. We've talked about the customers and that funnel. Stock, this must have a huge impact on actual stock holding and your stock as well.
Yeah, it can do. Yeah, one of the things we asked a lot about is solving those kind of merchandising challenges. Because merchandising, like everything from retail is really holistic. Like merchandising, pricing, all these things got to come together. So when you've got new stock, when you've got new products coming, and the question is that all retailers ask themselves, what is the right price point to sell this at? And a lot of times, you're having to take a bit of a guess at that, a bit of guesswork. You mentioned the pricing thing earlier. I always bring up the example, Oasis, the band, got back together and they did a big reunion tour. And when they launched those tickets for sale in the UK, they put dynamic pricing on them. So the pricing went out at a certain point. When demand was much higher than they were expecting, which seems straight, we'll get into, that's part of the problem. But so they pushed the prices right up. People were expected to pay about £130. They were paying £300, £400 a ticket. The problem there is they completely misunderstood what the price should be. The price should have been set way higher to start with. And then if demand was a bit low, they could have dropped the price using promotions, for example. And that would have been far less unpopular with people and would have driven the result they want. So that's what we're saying is you've got products. You've got a good idea that these are products that the market wants. We think we're going to launch. What is the right price? Not sure. So it's often about taking these products and figuring out, using promotions, how can we figure out what the right price is for this? Can we drop a price? So you've got your stock and you're trying to sell through at a certain rate. These products aren't selling as fast as they should. What would dropping the price do? Can we use a promotion to do that? I've got a kind of a long-term aim, which is that it's a bit of a wild fantasy, which is that a retailer shouldn't need to run a seasonal sale. If we're understanding the demand level for every product in their inventory, we could just adjust the pricing using promotions to get to the point where they're all selling through at exactly the right rate, so they never have overstocks left. That is a fantasy. It's never probably going to happen. Retailers love a big seasonal sale. It brings a lot of attention to the brand as well. But that's what you could do if you understood enough about the demand from people coming to your site and the products you have in terms of stock and margins. You really could manage those things to drive dynamically the right level of sales that you want.
This really excites me. And as you say, look, I know there's lots of big retailers listening or independents where they do that big sale once, twice a year. But also we have brands that are so curated, and maybe it's specialized, that something like this is perfect for them because it just keeps everything tipping over. And of course, I, like everyone listening, I'm so mindful of such an explosion of stock left over at certain times of year that the whole word landfill comes to mind. And that's definitely not what we want. So I think honing in on these skills with promotions, with pricing, I don't want to call it dynamic pricing, but with pricing properly, surely is a big win for so many aspects of the business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's so many things you can do and so much testing and optimizing you can do to figure out how to get your performance exactly where you want to be. Yeah, it's just worth diving in and having a go and seeing what you can achieve, because you probably can solve a lot of the problems you've got in terms of merchandising, pricing, stock, whatever it is. All these things are solvable problems with the right approach.
Fantastic. Well, look, last question then. We're obviously coming into Golden Quarter, as we've said. I know it's going to be a busy one. What's coming up next then for you and the team?
Yeah, we get very busy around Golden Quarter because all the customers we work with bring us their promotions and say, this is what we want to do in this period. How can you help us? Often in our case, because they generally plan their big promotions, their big clearances, they're just doing those anyway. We tend to sit around the edges when that's going on and just see how we can just accelerate their performance a little bit, get some extra conversions, get some extra AOV where we can. We've done that last few years with some retailers and just given them the extra 10% on top to make sure they have a really good Golden Quarter. For us, We continue to develop our technology. It's all based around the idea of understanding behavior if people come to the site. That's all about how we collect the data, how we analyze it, using a bit of machine learning and AI. So we're always trying to improve our model to make sure it's quite theoretical, but we're always trying to help improve our model so our understanding of what's going on someone's site gets better and better, and we get more and more reliable at predicting whether someone's going to buy or not, what they're going to do, where they're going to go, and just always about adding more automation and things to our offers and things to make that just super easy for retailers. What we're trying to do is just make it, our dream, if you like, our vision is to build this platform that essentially just a retailer puts it on the site, it analyzes what's going on, it just says, here's the gaps you have, here's the opportunities, I recommend you do this or this, stick this offer here, put this offer on this product, do this here, and then they just say yes or no, I agree, we should do that, don't not do that, and then it just runs that performance for them and just continually optimizes. So that's what we're building towards. And every time we work with our retailers on their promotions and their campaigns and their golden quarter, we get better and better at doing that because we understand more and more about the data, the customers, and what's going on.
Fantastic. And it's win-win for the customers all the way, which of course is the main thing here. So look, if you've enjoyed today's episode, please do like and share it from any of the podcast platforms out there. And if you're on social media, tag me, Melissa Moore, and the Retail Tea Break podcast. You can listen back to previous episodes on your favorite podcast platform. While you're there, do me a favor and hit that follow button so that you get to listen first every week. You can watch us, of course, over on YouTube and subscribe to the Retail Tea Break. You've no idea how useful that is to ensure that I can keep bringing you the content you love. So look, connect with myself and Dan over on LinkedIn. I'll pop all the different links for RevLifter in the show notes, of course. Dan, epic. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for your time today. It's been a great conversation.
Excellent. Thanks, Melissa. And thank you everyone for watching and listening.
Thank you again to RevLifter for sponsoring today's episode. Remember, RevLifter help e-commerce businesses use smarter promotions and turns more visitors into customers without killing profits. Head to www.revlifter.com and try intelligent offers free for the next 90 days.